Hi, my name is Kirsten. I'm originally from South Africa, but we've been living in Sydney for 20 years. We recently bought a piece of land down south in a small town called Maruya, which is just beautiful, small town of 7,000 residents. We built a house in South Africa 20 years ago, but we had an architect friend who helped us along and did a lot of the grunt work. This is the first time we're building in Australia, and so it was a very different experience. So our project is a small home, and people sometimes laugh when I tell them just how small. It's not a tiny house. It's not a house that can sort of all get folded away at night, but it is a very compact house. The square meterage is going to be about 78 square meters. And it will have a bedroom and a small room, which is a office / guest room / study. We're going this way because we're on a tight budget, and we also have no need for excess space. Just more cleaning, more heating, more cooling, all of those things. So we're looking forward to having a compact space. It's a completely new build. The little block of land is untouched. It's got a lot of lovely native trees on it, and we still see kangaroos crossing it, and echidna, and a lot of birds, a lot of bird life. So we're doing everything we can to not disrupt that property too much. The house is going to be on footings, so that we don't have to excavate into the land and turn over the soil, have as little in the way of concrete flooring as possible. Okay. So for whatever reason, I haven't ever felt worried about the project. I'm not frightened, I'm not anxious, I don't lie awake at night worrying, but on the other hand, Dom, my partner, and I are designing the house. Because it is a small house, there's not a lot to design, so we've designed the floor plan, but we sent it to a draftsman, and one night I woke up and I suddenly realized that we had designed the roof in such a way. We originally thought we'd have solar panels, so we thought the solar panels would sit here with the sun shining on. And then we realized that because we've got a lot of trees on the northern boundary, we weren't going to get a lot of benefit from solar panels. So we decided to get against the solar panels. But we forgot to time to the draftsman, and he drew up a building that was going to get no sunlight because the roof was at that angle. And I woke up the next morning and I thought, we've actually gone through this process. We'd spent a fair bit of money with the draftsman, and he'd never mentioned to us that that was going to be a huge problem. So we took the plans of him, we redesigned it, and we lifted the roof up that angle so that we get as much of the northern, the winter sun as possible, and that in summer we don't get too much. At that moment, I realized that we were being quite naive, and that we could have actually built that house and then sat in that house going, I can't believe we put the roof on back to front. And I'd been subscribed to Amelia's email for some time, and I just used to sort of check the headings, but not really take it any further. And then she sent an email out saying that she was going to be delivering a Q&A session on how to choose a builder. And so I tuned in that day, and I was really impressed by the breadth of advice that she gave and how she responded to the questions that were coming in. She gave a lot of very topical and relevant information. And then I started to look a bit further, and I saw how much information she had provided about every step of the building process. And I just thought it would be very worthwhile to sign up with Amelia, to feel like we had somebody who was looking after us a little bit, because that was a shock. I realized that, you know, we're not children. Nobody was going to pick us up if we fell over. Nobody was there to hold our hand. And we were going in with blinkers on. So that's when we signed up with Amelia, and we started following her regular weekly feedback sessions. We were able to submit our own new design for her very personal feedback. And she's very generous with her information. She doesn't stint. She tells you everything she knows, and I think she knows everything. You know, she's really an amazing amount of knowledge. And if she doesn't know something, she will make a note of it and she will give back to you. So she also has this Facebook page. You can post your questions, and she will go to the ends of the earth to find answers and to keep you informed with the latest availability of things. So, for example, I decided I didn't want to use a wood-fired heater due to the carbon emissions, and I mentioned that online, and Amelia helped me source a whole lot of different options. So it's been really great just to feel like she's looking out for us. I think I don't know what it's like around the rest of the world, but in Australia, a lot of homes are built without the input of an architect. You can go straight to a draftsperson, and you can also become an owner builder and design your own house. And as I said, we decided to design our own little place because it is quite small and simple, but we just, you know, we didn't have the benefit of the experience and sort of stylistic input of an architect. And that's where it was almost like when we hooked up with Amelia, it was like we had our own architect as a bonus, which was terrific. Well, I wasn't initially worried about the time it would take, because there was no time frame. We're still a few years off retiring and needing to move into our place, so it didn't matter. However, with shutdown, the Australian government, the federal government, offered a subsidy to support the construction industry, which is a very healthy $25,000. But you have to have signed your building contract by the 31st of December. And so suddenly, time has become very important. And so this was another thing that was really helpful about Amelia, is that she gave me the confidence to consider myself the project manager of our building, and also not to be frightened of expecting the contractors, our design team, to meet deadlines, and well, not meet deadlines only, but also to say when they would have done, completed certain tasks. So because of Amelia's advice, directly due to Amelia's advice, I am able to say in every email or every conversation, and when can we expect to have this by? And again, thanks to Amelia, I put together a spreadsheet, a sort of, not a Gantt chart, that's a bit fancy, but just a basic Excel spreadsheet with a timeline on it, which I repeatedly send out to our drafts person, we've got a lovely man called Trevor King, who is a conservation designer. So he's helping us with the overall look of the place. And we've also got a man who's helping us with some of the aspects around emissions and the passive house design, called Dick Clark. So Dick, Trevor, and our drafts person, Mike Hallahan, I call them the three wise men, and I send them the timeline constantly, just to remind them that we need to have everything done by the 31st of December. And I've also said to them, look, if that's unrealistic, let me know. But they've agreed that that's realistic. So I feel comfortable to keep pushing them, to remind them that we need them to stick to those time frames. I didn't ever come across other courses. There was no competition. Amelia was the one that was coming into my inbox. I thought the name Undercover Architect was really cute. I love her byline, your ally, you know. So I never realized, and this is part of the naivety I mentioned earlier, I never realized that we needed somebody. I didn't think of doing courses because I didn't think we needed courses. It was only after we almost made that massive mistake with the roof that it struck me that a bit of help would be good, and it just so happened that Amelia was there, and so we got lucky. I signed up for the paid course because I saw the value of everything else that Amelia was offering. So as I mentioned earlier, I listened to the session she did on how to find a good builder and what you could expect from a builder. And because that was so well done, and then I started searching and listening to a couple of the podcasts, and you know, there were a couple of free downloads that she sends out as well, and they all they were chatty, they were personable, they were accessible, and so they made me confident that paying money to be a part of her course was going to be good value. And again, because we almost made such a huge mistake that we would have regretted it forever, I just weighed up. I said, you know, the cost of the course compared to the cost of making this huge mistake, it would be money well spent. The first thing we did differently, Amelia suggested that in our particular situation where we have a property which is considered flame zone, which is a very high rating in the bushfire attack level. It means that we're very vulnerable to bushfire attack. And Amelia suggested that we have a bushfire consultant on board, and that we should also bring together a team of people who could advise us. So that was the first thing we did. Another one of her podcasts was an interview with the man that I mentioned earlier, Dick Clark, who is an expert in passive house design. He's a highly awarded passive house designer. And so we contacted Dick, and Dick helped us connect with Trevor King, who is the conservation designer. And Trevor helped us connect with Mike Hallahan, who is a very experienced draftsman. And so we got this group, this golden triangle of people to help us. So it didn't have to just be us and a company, you know, just trying to deal and talk to each other. And I think because these were people that Amelia had made connections with, they had the same kind of thinking as Amelia. So all three of them believe in a lot of communication. You know, the first draft person we had didn't actually consider that we needed the builders that we applied to for quotes needed to know what our budget was. That was remarkable to me. So we got a quote back which was double what we could afford. But from the start, Dick, Trevor, and Mike all had the same kind of philosophy as Amelia, which is just talk about these things, work them out, make sure everybody is thinking the same way. So that was one thing that was very different. Another thing, as I mentioned before, what Amelia said just gave me the confidence to feel not like, oh, I'm an employer and you need to do what I want, but that I am contracting you for a service, and therefore I can be very clear about what our needs are and what we want. And before that, I was always just really polite and, you know, oh, whatever you think's best. And I guess it's a little bit of a feminine trait. Amelia has given us very helpful information, just simple things like what different people do along the line, what their responsibilities are, and whether or not you need to have that person as part of the team or not. So she's demystified the whole architect, builder, draftsperson processes. It's made it all quite accessible. I think the best thing is knowing that there is this font of information, that there's a Facebook page where not only can we ask Amelia for advice and information, but we can also bounce off each other and make use of each other's experience. I guess in a nutshell, I'd say it's just being really helpful to know you're not alone. There's Amelia and there's this whole community of people all doing the same thing, asking the same questions and able to help with the answers. Well, I know what I'd say because I have a couple of friends that are renovating. I am nobody actually building like us, but I have 2-3 friends at work who are renovating, and I have told them to sign up with Amelia because it will really make such a difference to their project.